What exactly is the M1 chip and what is an SoC, a system on a chip? So in this episode, we're going to be tackling that question. Let's talk about SoC. So right off the bat, the M1 is Apple's first ever designed SoC, which is basically a system on a chip, which means they're also transitioning away from the Intel chips that they used to use in their Macs since 2006. So to kind of dive a little bit deeper into what a system on a chip is, we're going to have to get a little technical. So an SoC, or a system on a chip, is basically what it sounds like. It's an entire system integrated into one component, one microchip. So this is basically just a circuit that integrates all or most components of a computer in one chip. So the components can include the central processing unit, or CPU, the memory, input-output ports, storage, alongside other components like the graphical processing unit, the GPU, all again in a single strobe set. Now, when it comes to Apple and their M1 integration, on M1, they have the CPU, the GPU, memory architecture, the RAM, the natural engine, security enclave, the SSD control, the image single processor, the encode decode engine, the Thunderbolt control with USB 4 support, all of which is powered by the different features in the device that the M1 is installed in. Now, why this is cool is because before, the Macs had a separate component for the CPU, the IO, and security. Now, with the integration of all these components, all the processing that the system's going to do is going to be a ton faster than it was before. And with the unified memory architecture, all the systems within the Mac are able to read the information and the data that's coming out of it without swapping between the different memory pools. So everything is just going to be uniformed, talk a lot quicker, and you're going to see a really big performance boost in all of these M1 devices that are coming out. Now, like I mentioned, with the M1 and that unified memory architecture, the CPU and GPU and other processing components don't need to copy memory between one another. They're able to access that same data pool, which just improves the overall performance of this chip. But there is one big drawback to having everything kind of integrated into one, and that's that RAM setup. Now, usually with Macs, you're able to upgrade the RAM if you needed more RAM, but with this M1 setup, the RAM is basically what you see is what you get. You're not going to be able to upgrade that RAM within the Macs that are coming out with the M1 chip installed. Now, even though the M1 is a beast when it comes to performance is not the only benefit that's actually going to be harvested from this new chipset. It's also going to benefit the overall battery life. These M1 devices are bolstering some of the best batteries on any of the devices Apple has ever released because they're so optimized. Now, when it comes to benchmarks, the MacBook Air with the M1, the MacBook Pro, and MacBook Mini, all with the M1 are confirmed to having some of the most impressive performance on the market currently, and they're bolstering some of the highest single-core performance on any Mac that's currently on the market, and their multi-core performance are basically on par with any of the Apple desktops that are out currently. You can see how much of an impact M1 has on the overall performance of these machines. Now, we're also seeing a better yield on the battery itself. The M1 Macs are lasting up to 2 times longer than the previous generation. The one currently with the longest lasting battery is that 13-inch MacBook Pro, which lasts about 20 hours, which is double the amount of time from the previous model. And Apple's just basically planning to transition their entire Mac lineup to the Apple silicone chip, their SoC, their M1, doing away completely with any Intel integrations they have within their system. And Apple's expecting to process this entire transition within the next 2 years or so. Now, one of the reasons this is so important for Apple, because it really now more than ever puts them in the driver's seat, which is where they like to be. They want to be in control of everything that they manufacture and ship to the customer. So now they're making their own system on the chip. They're making their own hardware. They have their own software. Everything is talking to each other. All the people are working under one building. So all that architecture is now fully optimized. It's moving fast. The battery is optimized. And this is going to put them well in position to making the M1 chip and all these M1 devices some of the most efficient processing machines on the market. And that's something that definitely can sell a ton of devices for Apple. I mean, more devices than they already do sell. Apple sells a ton of things already with this new M1 chip. If it's done in the way that I think it's going to be done, this architecture that's being set up, and now it's going into the iPad, we're in for a really, really big change in how we perceive how these things work and how efficient we believe laptops and tablets should be. Anyway, guys, I want to know what you think. Are you excited about the new M1 devices that Apple's debuting? What do you think of the new SOC that Apple is now putting into all its machines? With the iPad, the new Mac, the MacBooks, everything's getting an M1 basically. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're checking us out on YouTube. If you're watching this episode anywhere else, make sure to check us out on YouTube. That way you can leave your comments and let me know what you guys think about some of the topics that we definitely discussed. And as always, guys, make sure to check out some of the other episodes we have up. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, checking us out, supporting us. We definitely appreciate it. Go ahead and share this podcast out for anyone you think may enjoy it. Again, thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure to check out some of the other stuff we have. And until I see you, or until you hear me next time, stay safe and peace out.